What if the perfect family you admired from afar was built on secrets too heavy to bear? The Okafo family seemed to have it all: a picture-perfect home, bright and loving children, and parents who worked tirelessly to provide for their future. But behind the polished exterior were cracks invisible to the outside world, cracks that would widen until the entire foundation came crumbling down. This is a story about love and trust, but also about the weight of silence, the dangers of secrecy, and the choices that leave scars no one can see. Today we'll uncover the untold journey of Amara and Marco, two siblings bound by loyalty but torn apart by the consequences of their decisions. Their story is raw, heartbreaking, and deeply human. It's about how the past never stays buried and how even the strongest bonds can fracture under the weight of guilt. But it's also about resilience, about finding strength in the ruins, and about the possibility of redemption when everything seems lost. Stay with us as we delve into the story of The Weight of Secrets, a tale that will take you to the heart of a family's darkest truths. By the end, you'll understand how even the smallest choices can ripple into consequences that change everything. The town of Enugu was a haven of serenity, where life unfolded at a pace that mirrored its lush landscapes. At the heart of this tranquil setting was the Okafo family, admired by all for their kindness and unity. Mr. Okafo, a diligent banker, and Mrs. Okafo, a compassionate teacher, worked tirelessly to provide their children, Amara and Marco, with a comfortable life. Amara was a lively 12-year-old with an infectious laugh, while Marco, at 14, balanced her energy with his calm demeanor. Together, they were inseparable, forming a bond that seemed unshakable. From the outside, their family was the embodiment of perfection. Their home reflected their values: meticulously clean, with a garden blooming in vibrant colors and walls adorned with photographs that chronicled their happiest memories. But behind the polished facade, the truth was more complex. Both Mr. and Mrs. Okafo were dedicated professionals, but their demanding schedules meant the siblings spent long hours alone. These afternoons, devoid of parental guidance, became a blank canvas where their imaginations and questions began to grow. The love in their home was undeniable, but its presence came in fleeting glimpses, leaving a void the siblings didn't fully understand. Amara's laughter was the heartbeat of the Okafo household, her playful energy lighting up even the quietest corners of their home. Marco, her older brother, was her steady anchor, the one who balanced her impulsive adventures with calm reasoning. Together, they created a world of their own, filled with secret handshakes, make-believe kingdoms, and shared dreams. But beneath their laughter lingered a silent yearning. While their parents provided everything material they could need, the absence of their presence left a gap too wide for the siblings to ignore. The house, filled with vibrant colors and mementos of family joy, often felt too quiet in their parents' absence. On the dining table, notes of love and apologies were as constant as the ticking of the clock. "Sorry for missing dinner," read one. "We'll make it up this weekend," read another. For Marco and Amara, these messages were bittersweet, proof of their parents' love, but also a stark reminder of their physical absence. Alone, the siblings leaned on each other, their bond strengthening in ways neither could have anticipated. The afternoons spent alone offered Amara and Marco freedom, but it was a freedom laced with solitude. They found ways to fill the silence. Marco would sketch intricate drawings of their dream adventures, while Amara would braid imaginary stories, weaving herself as the heroine. Their imaginations thrived, creating a shared world of secrets and whispered dreams. Yet, this shared solitude slowly became fertile ground for questions neither of them fully understood. Why were their parents always away? What were the unspoken stories behind their family's perfect image? As their bond deepened, so did their curiosity about the world beyond their home's walls. The absence of adult supervision gave them space to explore, but it also left room for shadows to grow in the corners of their innocence. They began to notice the inconsistencies, the gaps in the stories their parents told. And while they laughed and played together, there was an unspoken agreement to never voice the loneliness they both felt. This was their secret, one they shared without words, and it was slowly shaping the path ahead. Marco's 15th birthday came with a gift that would change everything: his very first smartphone. It was sleek, shiny, and a symbol of trust from his parents, who believed he was responsible enough to use it wisely. At school, Marco quickly learned how to navigate its possibilities, guided by his peers who introduced him to a world of content he had never imagined. Among these discoveries was a forbidden corner of the internet that sparked his curiosity. At first, it felt harmless, even thrilling, like uncovering a secret treasure chest no one else knew about. Back at home, Marco couldn't keep this newfound world to himself. One quiet afternoon, he showed Amara, eager to share the thrill with the person he trusted most. Amara was hesitant at first, her wide eyes filled with confusion as she tried to understand what she was seeing. But Marco's excitement was contagious, and soon, her intrigue overpowered her initial doubts. Together, they sat side by side, exploring this secret corner of the internet. It felt like a game, a private adventure that only they were part of. What began as a moment of shared discovery quickly turned into a ritual. Each afternoon after school and chores were done, Marco and Amara would retreat to a quiet corner of their home, the glow of the smartphone screen lighting their faces. The siblings giggled at the absurdity of some videos and whispered in awe at others. It became their little escape, a world entirely their own. Yet what they didn't realize was that their innocent curiosity was slowly being replaced by something deeper, something they couldn't quite name. As days turned into weeks, their shared secret grew heavier. Marco, now more confident, began to see himself as the leader of their private explorations. Amara, though slightly uneasy, trusted her brother implicitly. She didn't question his judgment, even as her own doubts began to creep in. After all, they were in this together, weren't they? The shared experience strengthened their bond, making them feel closer than ever. But with each passing day, the boundary between playful curiosity and something more dangerous blurred just a little further. The Okafo household, once filled with the sounds of Amara's laughter and Marco's calm musings, now had a new rhythm, one dictated by secrecy. The smartphone became their link to a hidden world, a source of fascination that made the afternoons feel shorter but heavier. They no longer built forts in the living room or raced in the garden. Instead, they huddled in quiet corners, eyes locked on the glowing screen. Their conversations shifted too, becoming coded and cautious, as if the secrets they shared were too fragile to be spoken out loud. With every new video they watched, a part of their innocence slipped further away. Amara began to notice a subtle change in Marco. He seemed bolder, more assertive, as if this secret had awakened a part of him she hadn't seen before. She couldn't help but wonder if she was changing too. The unease she felt was fleeting, quickly drowned out by the bond they shared. For now, it was their game, their secret, their unspoken pact. And yet the weight of it all loomed quietly, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Marco's boldness grew with every passing day, his confidence fueled by the secrets he and Amara now shared. One afternoon, in the quiet solitude of their room, he turned to her with a suggestion that made her heart skip a beat. "What if we tried some of the things we've seen?" he asked, his voice steady but his eyes searching for her reaction. Amara froze, her mind racing between shock and curiosity. She hesitated, but Marco's reassuring tone made it sound less like a risk and more like an extension of their shared exploration. Amara agreed, though her agreement was wrapped in uncertainty. What began as a game, clumsy imitations and awkward laughter, soon shifted into something far more serious. They didn't speak of what they were doing, and they certainly didn't question it. It was just another layer to the bond they shared, another secret that tied them even closer. Marco, with his calm demeanor, made it all seem natural, as though it was just a part of growing up. Amara, despite the unease growing in her chest, trusted him entirely. As time passed, their secret games became an unspoken part of their daily lives. The innocence that once defined their bond was replaced by a growing complexity neither of them could fully comprehend. Amara's laughter, once so carefree, grew quieter, and her vibrant energy became subdued. Marco, on the other hand, seemed to thrive in this new dynamic. He carried a calm assurance, convincing Amara that what they shared was just theirs, something no one else could understand. It was a pact bound by trust and their shared isolation. Meanwhile, their parents remained oblivious to the changes unfolding under their roof. The love notes left on the dining table continued, their promises of family outings ringing hollow against the growing silence in the siblings' relationship. Mr. and Mrs. Okafo saw their children as close as ever, but they failed to notice the subtle shifts, the way Amara avoided prolonged eye contact, or how Marco's quiet nature had turned into something almost guarded. Their absence allowed the secret to grow unchecked, creating a rift in the family that no one yet saw. The bond that once brought Amara and Marco joy now felt like an invisible chain, binding them to a secret that grew heavier each day. Amara, though trusting Marco, couldn't ignore the unease that settled in her heart. She would find herself staring at her reflection, wondering if the person she saw was the same girl who once danced freely in the garden. Marco, however, continued to reassure her. His words, calm and persuasive, painted their secret as something unique and unbreakable, a world only they could inhabit. Their lives outside the home began to shift as well. Amara, who had always been the star of her school with her infectious energy, became quieter, more withdrawn. Marco, now more protective of their shared secret, started to distance himself from his peers, no longer as interested in their jokes or adventures. The outside world felt like a distant echo compared to the intense reality they shared. Each passing day blurred the line between what they once were and what they were becoming, setting the stage for choices that would shape their futures in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The moment Amara realized she was pregnant, The walls of their secret world began to close in. She sat in silence, staring at the test in her trembling hands, her mind a storm of confusion and fear. When she told Marco, his calm exterior faltered for the first time. His voice, usually steady, was laced with panic as they whispered about what to do next. Marco, determined to protect their secret, insisted they handle it on their own. "No one can know," he said, his tone more desperate than convincing. Amara, torn between trust and terror, nodded. Together, they sought out a solution, their naivety leading them down a dark and dangerous path. The abortion was secretive and traumatic, leaving Amara physically and emotionally scarred. Marco tried to comfort her, but his words felt hollow, unable to erase the guilt that now consumed them both. For Amara, the ordeal left a wound deeper than she could articulate, a void that even Marco's reassurances couldn't fill. Yet, their pact remained unbroken. They told themselves it was a one-time mistake, a necessary action to protect their family, but the weight of their choices lingered, unspoken. Months passed, but the shadow of their secret lingered heavily over Amara and Marco. The bond they once cherished now felt like a burden they could never escape. When Amara discovered she was pregnant again, the fear returned with even greater intensity. This time her body protested, weakened by the scars of the first ordeal. Yet Marco remained resolute. "We'll handle it just like before," he said, but his confidence was now tinged with desperation. Amara, though hesitant, agreed, caught between her own guilt and her loyalty to her brother. The cycle repeated, each time leaving Amara more broken than before. She began to dread the mirror, where her reflection showed not just the physical toll, but the emotional emptiness that grew with each passing day. Marco, too, was changing. The calm resolve that once defined him was replaced by a nervous edge, a paranoia that someone might uncover their secret. At school, he became distant, avoiding his peers and withdrawing further into himself. For Amara, the silence between them grew unbearable, a constant reminder of the price they were paying for their choices. Amara's life took a turn when she met Chuka, a man whose kindness and warmth felt like sunlight breaking through years of darkness. Chuka admired her resilience, seeing her as a symbol of grace and strength. For the first time in years, Amara felt hope, a chance to leave the shadows of her past behind. Their courtship was swift but heartfelt, leading to a marriage that promised a fresh start. Amara clung to this new chapter, determined to bury her secrets and build a life free from the burdens she once carried. But the past has a way of surfacing when least expected. After years of trying to conceive, Amara and Chuka sought medical help. The truth unraveled in a doctor's office, where the damage from her past abortions was revealed. Pressed by Chuka and her parents, Amara confessed the truth, every painful detail she had hidden for so long. The revelation was like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile facade she had built. Mr. Okafo, in an attempt to shield his family's reputation, confessed another buried secret. Marco had been adopted. The weight of this truth only deepened the tragedy. The revelation shattered the Okafo family, leaving nothing but echoes of what once was. Chuka, unable to reconcile the lies and the pain they carried, walked away, leaving Amara to pick up the pieces of her broken life. Marco, consumed by shame and guilt, disappeared without a word, leaving his sister with only the memories of their shared secrets. For Mr. and Mrs. Okafo, the truth about Marco's adoption was a final blow to the carefully constructed image of their perfect family. They turned to their faith, seeking redemption in prayer, but the fractures ran too deep to heal. Amara found herself utterly alone, surrounded by the silence of a house that had once been filled with laughter. The walls that had witnessed their secrets now seemed to close in, suffocating her with reminders of her past. She tried to move forward, but the weight of her infertility, the loss of her marriage, and the absence of her brother made every step feel impossible. Her days blurred into one another, and her once vivid dreams of a bright future were now distant and unreachable. Amara's solitude became a relentless mirror, forcing her to confront the choices that led her here. The once vibrant woman now moved through life as a shadow of herself, haunted by memories of Marco and the life they had shared. She replayed their moments together endlessly, searching for a point where everything could have been different. Regret became her constant companion, but it also lit a small flame of resolve within her. For the first time, she considered what it would take to rebuild, not the life she had lost, but a new one from the ashes. Meanwhile, Marco's departure was as abrupt as it was final. No one knew where he had gone, and whispers of his absence spread through the town. Some said he had left for the city, seeking anonymity in the crowded streets, while others believed he had vanished into the countryside, trying to escape the shadows of his past. For Amara, the not knowing was the hardest part. She found herself writing letters to him, pouring out her guilt, her sorrow, and her desperate hope for his return. But each letter remained unsent, a testament to her own inability to let go. The Okafo household, once a place of joy and connection, now stood as a solemn reminder of the price of hidden truths. Mr. and Mrs. Akafo, consumed by their own guilt, turned their energy to the church, seeking forgiveness and purpose through faith. They became fixtures in the community's outreach programs, using their pain to counsel others about the dangers of secrecy and neglect. Yet, their efforts could not erase the sorrow of a family broken beyond repair. They longed for their children, but the house remained silent, their rooms untouched and frozen in time. For Amara, the road to redemption was a lonely one. She began volunteering at shelters and schools, finding solace in helping others avoid the mistakes she had made. Her infertility, once a source of unbearable grief, became a driving force for her to nurture others. Though her letters to Marco remained unsent, she clung to the hope that one day he might read them, that he might return. As she stood in the garden one morning, sunlight breaking through the clouds, she whispered a silent prayer. It wasn't for forgiveness, it was for the strength to carry on. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the weight of secrets. Stories like these remind us of the fragility of family, the impact of choices, and the power of truth. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments which part of the story moved you the most. And don't forget to mention where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see our global community come together through shared stories. If this story resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another powerful tale. Together, let's continue exploring stories that inspire, challenge, and connect us. Until next time, thank you for being here and take care.